Hello there, it's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Johnny Test, Fred Flintstone, and one of my personal favorites, Leonardo, and you are listening to Epic Tales from the Sewer. It's totally awesome, turtle power, go, go, go!
Strap into the party wagon and hold on to your pizza. All right, folks, welcome. We've got a very special show for you today. I'm your host, Justin, with my co-host, Mr. Eric Will. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself there, Justin?
Doing awesome, man. It's a special episode today. We're pretty fortunate to be talking with both the writer and artist for the upcoming crossover between Masters of the Universe and TMNT.
Yay!
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 The highly anticipated Masters of the Universe and TMNT. So first, we've got both a writer and an artist who's worked on books like Grayson, Nightwing, G.I. Joe versus Transformers, Masters of the Universe versus Injustice, The Crow. Is it Leith? I'll have to ask him that one.
Yes.
The series Money Shot, as well as creator of Hack Slash, Tim Seeley. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you for having me. Nice shirt. A little red.
Yeah, I like that with Renette.
That's great.
When I met Tim the first time, I actually I was reviewing the book Green Lanterns at the time with Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz and all that. So it was just funny. So I've met Tim a couple times. I actually have art from Tim on my wall back up there, which is a blue beetle. So
cool.
So it's pretty cool. So that's why I say and artist, because I enjoy your art every day. So
I'm no Freddie, but I can sketch some shit.
It's funny because our next guest is a returning guest known for his work on crossovers like Batman TMNT, TMNT Universe, numerous variant covers from The Last Ronin and the follow-up series The Lost Years and Last Ronin 2. But also, and more importantly, the He-Man Thundercats crossover and the Masters of the Universe Injustice crossover, which kind of brings us to what we're talking about today. Mr. Freddie Williams II.
Thank you. Hi. Thanks for having me on again.
Welcome to you both. We're excited. Looks like the book is due out September 25th. Any thoughts on that? Is it going to be pushed back, or do we think it's ready to go for then?
Oh, it'll ship for sure.
All right, good. Okay, so that's one for you, and a point taken away from Mr. Ben Bishop. So just had to throw that in there. So.
I don't know much specifics about, or many specifics about Last Ronin 2 or anything, but what I always say, even about Last Ronin 1 and about anything that it's like they just want to have it perfect. And when the full series is collected in a trade and people read it in a year from now or 2 years from now, what's going to matter is that they're awesome books. Yes, they are late and stuff. It creates some confusion and some clumsiness, but it's coming together really well because I've seen some early stuff of Last Ronin 2, and that's not like me specifically sticking up for any specific person like Ben or not, but it's more like everyone's going to love it whenever it gets completed finally. So
I was just going through the Lost Day special, and you had a lot in that one, Freddie. You know, there was like yours and Kevin's pencils and all that. And I was just going through, and it's so broken up with the Escorza brothers and Ben and stuff too. So a lot went into that one book. So I can understand them wanting to make it perfect.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of people to coordinate, and some of the stories that I can't, like telling tales out of school, whatever that phrase is, but I just heard a lot of stuff, and I'm glad that it got, it's getting put together, it's getting completed. It's just a lot to go through. They have a lot happening with it, so yeah.
Well, prestige size book, and it's 48 pages, so it's it's beefy. It's a beefy project. So,
I mean, we have to give Ben a hard time. I'm just saying.
No,
I mean, he did kill our childhood
without a doubt.
Heroes. I mean, it's just something that we have to do.
You said late books, better late than never. That's kind of the theme of this, because this was a project that almost never happened, And I remember just seeing like these posts that you had on your website, Freddie, where it's like, oh, these Masters of the Universe prelims that I did for the series that never quite taken off. Is there a story about the ill-fated project that finally got it off the ground? Like, do you have kind of like a back history of how this came to be and how Tim
Yeah.
got involved?
Oh yeah, definitely. I can give some feedback, but a lot of the decisions would be made like at a much higher pay grade than us. Like it would be probably on the level of like lawyers and editors and stuff like that. But for a brief rundown for people who maybe heard a little bit about it or haven't heard about it before, in mid 2019, when the He-Man license was still at DC Comics, one of the editors there in charge of like special projects and stuff had approached me to see if I would be interested in drawing a He-Man Ninja Turtles crossover. It had a very different feel, and it would have come out in either late 2019 or early 2020. That was the original plan. I immediately had suggested Tim Seeley for the writer, because we had just done Injustice versus Masters of the Universe together, and his writing style is very visual because he's a visual artist as well. I think he understands like how much you can kind of fit into a scene, or the way things pace and flow in a visually dynamic way that people who maybe aren't a visual artist have a hard time envisioning. And so Tim and I started coming up with ideas. There was nothing firm at that point, but by the end of 2019, it was clear that when I should have been starting in October of that year, that it was going to be delayed. And the reasons for that are not real clear to me even now. I heard that it had something to do with like brand awareness for when the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon was coming out. And so they wanted to delay it because that way it wasn't crossing over. I don't know. It's hard to describe because it's kind of nebulous to me. And then in early 2020, oh, hi. Hey, buddy.
Now, Tina, can you get tape?
I think they're the star of the show.
It's a family affair. That's why we're laughing. So.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. Mine usually comes like right behind here. He comes in and pokes his head high, and Justin's like, and I'm like,
yeah.
Well, the energy that kids bring and their enthusiasm is probably much better than seeing. I'm like in my late 40s, seeing some old sad late 40s man talking about a crossover that got canceled or whatever. But basically in early 2020, the project got greenlit again, and then like 5 days later, it got canceled because of reasons that I'm not real sure of. But it was like for about 6 or 8 days or something like that, it was greenlit again in early 2020, right before the pandemic and stuff.
Oh wow!
But during that time, those couple of months that we had in stasis, Tim and I briefly discussed some ideas that we had. We had like several loose ideas that could be stitched together into a plot, but we didn't have any like firm outlines. But I started working on visual designs during that time because that's like the part that I enjoy the most about any new project, is coming up with designs and my approach for how the characters would look. And so I still had those designs waiting. Technically, DC did not own them, Mattel did not own them, but they existed. And then after the project got canceled in early 2020, I held on to those designs for about a year and a half or 2 years or whatever it was, until I finally was like, well, why not just put them out there? Because I put a lot of work into this. I would have loved it to happen. And I just talked about, on a few podcasts, and then I made like a little sketchbook that shows some of those designs and talks about this in greater detail, about the timeline of events and stuff. So that's how it got canceled. Over the next like 2 years, occasionally I would hear from people at Mattel or from Viacom, which owns Nickelodeon, which owns the Ninja Turtles, that, they would say stuff like, I really wish that would have happened. Maybe something could still happen with it someday. Don't give up on it. And the fact that both Tim and I were both passionate about it still, and had, it's not like we were saying, yeah, it was this dumb thing we were supposed to be working on. Instead we were like, it's a missed opportunity. We would have loved to, and would still love for it to come back. I think showed that, it kept us on their radar basically. And then sometime last year, I heard from Rob David, who's like a real bigwig at Mattel, that they were talking about a new toy line, and then that put, he asked me to draw like the mini comics for the toys, and that's something that I was like, it has nothing to do with our story and nothing to do with our design, but it's cool just to see it exist in some form.
Yeah, like those originals back in the '80s where they had the mini comics in the first run of the Masters of the Universe figures and all that, and you're just like, what is going on? It's so gonzo. It's all painted. It's like a D&D book,
Yeah, it's the style that I'm doing for it is not on that level. It's not the fully painted stuff, but mine is like the Ninja Turtles look kind of more like the Playmates toys as far as their face, and the more doe-eyed sort of cutesy. There's a little bit more of that to the mini comics, but I'm assuming because the series, the toy series, the toy line was so popular, the idea of now having a crossover rejuvenated and have it come out like a more PG-13 actual full-size, comic book crossover with Tim and I, that it kind of got brought up again. And then they were asking us if we were interested, and we were like, yeah, definitely. I mean, different designs and different story, but it's just fun to play with them at all. So and Tim had this unenviable task of trying to use pre-prepared storyline that connected to the mini comics, but also to do something totally unique and interesting that doesn't just retread that same storyline from the mini comics. He has a brand new take on it, but it doesn't invalidate the mini comics. I'm pretty impressed by it. It's something that I'm interested to see when people get the first issue when it comes out. What the reaction is.
That is really interesting too. Maybe you could talk more on that, Tim. But I'm just wondering, do you think that kids are going to respond to these figures, or do you think that the collectors have scooped them all up? Because I do not see anything on the shelves when I walk into Target. There's
I can't find any of them.
There was
I can't find any of them.
Yeah.
There's just a news article out that this year was the first year that adults bought more action figures at retail than kids did. Which obviously that has been, and I got a pile of figures right there, but that's been the trek for a long time, I think.
Oh, definitely.
But I have, so my friend Derek, his kid Arlen, every time they come over to my house, I lose one of my Turtles action figures, He-Man Turtle action figures, because it looks they're so attractive to like this 5-year-old kid. They're big blocky colors, and they're just like such perfect toys. And then, like, I've seen kids play with them. They are perfect for like,
yeah, absolutely,
8-year-old. So but I mean, I don't know, kids got video games, so that's always the problem. But I think this is probably the most successful of the Master Universe toy launches, I think. So
yeah, I'd imagine after like in the same in the same Target, I'd go and I'd see the peg is completely empty for the Turtles crossover. Then they have 6 Stratos figures on the next one. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even make it into the crossover. We
okay, all right.
made a monkey dude or something.
Buzz off guy, I see. That's good. Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, this seems to be a big moment for Masters of the Universe, as well as like the 40th anniversary for the Ninja Turtles. Do you have any thoughts on the lasting appeal of what Masters of the Universe is? And that's for either of you.
Sure. I mean, I think that Masters of the Universe always comes down to the toys. Like it, we've got comics, and we're gonna get a movie someday. We've got the animation stuff, but like those objects, those beautiful little plastic things, they like stir the imagination. So people, that's what's always been, I think, what made Masters of the Universe work and going back to the 80s when they first came out, is just little kids pick them up and they immediately imagine some version of the world. You don't even need a backstory for them. They're just such perfect plastic art. So I think that that always works. I mean, like we said, the kids buy less action figures now, but if they do, it's when they see a sweet action Masters of the Universe figure and it just looks like something you want to hold and smash into some other dude, and then pretend whoever the character is. Like for every kid who's ever existed and bought Masters of the Universe figures, they have their favorite toy and they have their own story in their head. And Trapjaw is a good guy in their story, and Man at Arms is a villain, or whatever. Like it's just always, it allows all that stuff. That's what I think keeps it, it's flexible. so you can transition it to new stories, you can transition it to new mediums, but when everything comes down to it, it's just you want to play with this damn thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it too. And I was just thinking, when you were talking about video games, I don't recall there being any really good He-Man Masters of the Universe video games besides like that original Atari one, which was
Yeah,
just
Wind Raider.
garbage.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Coleco, I don't know.
But today is the time for video games for them to actually really make a good. I would buy it if they end up making a He-Man
Yeah, I'm
video game. It'd be interesting.
surprised that it's never happened. I mean, I remember when Freddie and I were working on Masters of the Universe Injustice, like there was questions like, well, can we get He-Man for an Injustice download? And it was
hell yeah.
loaded. It never happened. But
Well, that's because they should have had Skeletor. That's why. It
Mhm.
should have easily been, the souped up Skeletor. So
well, they show up in some other game too. But there was a mobile game of Masters of the Universe I used to play.
yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Too, yeah. So and we put him in Masters of the Multiverse, the chibi He-Man from that game. So, but yeah, I think the long-lasting stuff is always comes down to like how much can the people interact with this, which is Turtles too, right? They just instantly you have questions. Like, why is this turtle a ninja, and why do they have different colored things and different weapons? It's so interactive, just instantly. You can just watch kids have that interaction. It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, kids.
Yes.
Not 40-year-olds, but yeah, no.
No, that's preposterous.
Do you have any thoughts on Masters of the Universe longevity, Freddie?
Yeah, I'm just talking for myself because I don't have kids. We have nieces and nephews, but all of them are into sports. So they had a few action figures, but it was more like cars and planes and then footballs. That was which is weird because we have a lot of nieces and nephews and none of them are into the stuff that I'm into. So when they come to this to my house, whenever they see toys, it's like a brand new playground, and they're intrigued by it, but it's just more because like total novelty. But anyway, for myself, whenever I was like in second and third grade, whenever I saw the He-Man cartoons, it was having high technology with sorcery type stuff, or a barbarian, who's like riding next, or, he's on a huge cat that's right next to somebody on like the attack track or, a Wind Raider or whatever. That was an interesting mix of stuff. The sound of Adam when he's turning into He-Man, and it's like all this energy is crackling and his voice sounds like this, crazy echo has been applied to it. So he sounds like ultra super powerful, and the words masters of the universe and all that stuff. That's so intriguing. That was intriguing to me. And also the type of the level of responsibility that He-Man has with his power. So he's, not going around bullying people or intimidating people to get his way, even though he has so much power that, he would be able to get away with that. It's more about like the level of responsibility that when he enters into a situation that there's a problem, he's usually trying nonviolent means to fix those things. And then, he's using negotiation and charm and friendliness to try to diffuse. And then if he needs to lift a boulder, he can do that. Or if he needs to, crack some skulls, he can do that as well. Or usually it's like
a volcano somehow. I mean,
Yeah. So then you call He-Man. He's a good man for that job. But when I was a kid, I'm like, whether you know it or not, you're at times looking for like a role model, and He-Man and Superman were great role models in that same way, where they were, great examples of what masculinity could be. But as a kid, of course, I'm not thinking of it in those terms. It appealed to me how powerful they were, but how responsible and funny and charming that they were as well. So that to me was the appeal for He-Man. I mean, he looks awesome, super awesome. And he's riding a huge cat, all that. So it all works together. And I did have a lot of the toys. I ended up having like 5 or 6 Skeletors by the end of my toy collecting phase, because the Skeletor was always like on sale. So like if you went to those bargain bins, you already have a Skeletor at home, but it's like a really good deal, so you can pick up a couple more.
But honey, this one has terror hands.
No, I'm saying when I was pretty young still,
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Mom!
but like,
Yeah.
yeah, and but I always played it where Skeletor, there was a main Skeletor who had his breast piece, and then I took all of the sort of paraphernalia off of the other Skeletors, and those were like his evil clone minions. Like
Oh,
that's how I
nice.
always played it. So
We're gonna
pretty
put that
cool.
in the comic. That's too good not to use.
They look just like them. They just don't have the chest piece.
Yeah, skelets, whatever we want to call them, the little skeletons.
I like it. That sounds like a really good idea. So since this has been kicking around since before 2020, with the release of the Kevin Smith series on Netflix, are there any ideas that you couldn't use because of they got used up in that era?
No, fortunately, no, because it actually kind of helped us that stuff. Because I worked on the Revolution stuff too.
I loved it, by the way. I think it was such a good series.
Yeah, they did a great job, and we did, so it actually helped, I think, get this going, that Master Universe was back in the public eye. I think it's at this point, like, a toy company is really sort of a brand management, a IP management thing, right? Because, like, yeah, they make toys, but really, He-Man can be a video game, like you said, it can be an animated series, it can be a streaming, film, it can be all kinds of things, and so it helps us to get this stuff going if there's interest already.
Hmm.
So, and I think this kind of hits at a really good time. We're sort of between
Oh, definitely.
animated stuff and between animated Turtles stuff, the movies and everything. So we're hoping this sates your need for all those other things in the meantime.
Well, last year we had 3 crossovers. So we had the Usagi Yojimbo crossover with the Turtles. We had at the beginning of the year there was the Street Fighter and the
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, which had just ended up. So this year there's not a lot of crossovers, but we have 4 or 5 Turtle books coming. So
Yes.
yours is going to be coming probably 2 months after issue number 1. I think
Right.
September 25th. So
Let's hope we hit that 300,000 orders as well.
oh God, yeah, those numbers are staggering, right? Maybe it's another X-Men #1 situation. So
300,000, that would
be great.
be some royalties down the line for.
Oh hell yeah!
We'd be okay with that. That'd be lovely.
With this moment that the Turtles are having and all that, is there anything that you guys think that is kind of complimentary? Like what makes the Turtles work with Masters of the Universe, particularly for you guys?
I mean, that was one of the things Freddie and I talked about from the beginning, is why would these people work together? What is the thing that ties these two stories together and these characters? And they're all teenagers who sort of have to give up this life of being a teenager to go be responsible to save the world, right? Like that's the thing that ties them together. Prince Adam was always going to run off and do stuff like Skeletor in space or Hordak and all that stuff, and his parents then thought he was, shirking his duties, and Tila thought he was a loser.
Yep.
And that's his torment, right? That he. But that's also the story of Turtles, right? I mean, they just want to be kids. They just want to hang out. They just want to do all the stuff teenagers do, and they can't because they have this ninja duty, and also they're turtles. So like that was the thing that we really wanted to push with our story. And the turtles, when they go to Eternia, there's all kinds of weird people there. There's all kinds of different races and species, and so they go to Eternia and they're like, this place is cool. We can do whatever here. And when Adam goes to Earth, he's not a prince anymore. He's just a guy. And he doesn't have to, he could just hang out and do stuff and not have to worry about all this responsibility on his shoulders. So that was kind of the thing from the beginning. They were like, this is why. This is the thing that ties them, in addition to crazy toys and,
Crazy toys, yeah.
nutty vehicles and wacky villains and stuff. Like, yes, all that stuff. But that was the core, the heart that we had to hang all this other fun, colorful stuff around.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that, the idea that it's the teenage aspect of it that you're going with, because I mean, on that level, yeah, you forget that Prince Adam is a teenager, and so is Tila. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gone there, so that's pretty cool. That's neat.
That's what
And
happens when we're Freddie and I are the experts on Master Universe shit now. We know all the stuff. So when you ask us, we're like, oh, we know exactly what this is. We've got this. We've been talking about this for years. We got it.
so you already knew like what vehicles you wanted Donatello to like mess around with and all that.
I mean, so much of it for us when we're putting this together is like, okay, we've got the toys that Mattel made, these awesome toys that they designed, and the mashups that they came up with. So our first thing is, how do we get those in here?
Mhm.
And second, first is stick on theme. Second, get the toys in there. And then third, what things that aren't toys do we want to see together? That was like, our marching orders. And I think we managed to get everything that we wanted to see, I think, in there, which is insane. And I had Freddie drawing, I think in the first issue, you had to draw like every vehicle, every Master Universe vehicle.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that. Right.
Believe me, there's a lot of vehicles in there.
Yes. And I threw in like he also has a bunch of Turtles characters like mashed up in there. There's a lot going on that we're throwing at you, and then you'll see kind of what, like, the thing that we had to come up with to differentiate our story. There's a mechanic in there that we figured out that allows us to do the toy stuff and keep you get to see the toys that you want to play with, but we have to be able to surprise you. We can't just show you that stuff. It's a comic book. You gotta interact with this thing and be like, whoa, we can't be predictable. So we built some stuff into it that allows us to do really weird, really crazy stuff and mash up characters that probably won't make it into toys.
Yeah, the early conversations between Tim and I was impressed immediately by Tim's like he immediately had. So my brain was still kind of stuck in the 2019-2020 version of the crossover. Now that's just because that's just what it was for me, but I knew that wouldn't work, but it was hard for me to kind of dismiss that and then move forward. And Tim had no problem with that at all. Like he immediately knew or had like several ideas of directions that we could go that all brought a fresh life to it and would work. And then, the mechanic that he's describing was impressive when we were going back and forth how well it worked. And his input on this story, of course, it had to go through Nickelodeon's approvals and Mattel's approvals. And eventually some of the stuff that he came up with also influenced and gave birth to new toy designs as well. Stuff that I did not design. I'm just saying his story worked so well that they were like, that's really cool. That gives us an idea for 2 toys, or maybe it was 1 toy. I can't remember. But that to me was really, I like that it's reciprocal, and because it comes from an organic place as well, that Tim was able to come up with some great stuff that everyone could play with,
That's right. We make they make the toys, we play with their toys, we give them more toys, we play with those toys. That's their job, right? It's just making up stuff to play with. That's our job together.
You've just described the Tom Hanks movie Big, so it's
There's very little large piano playing in our job, but it does happen. It does happen
occasionally. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And there's 0 Robert Loggia, so
unfortunately,
not 0. But.
Oh, okay, all right. You heard it here, folks. I was going to say, we got a new toy line for the Turtles, which we've talked about a little bit, with some really cool character designs and some mashup characters. We got in the first wave Leo, Donnie, Man-at-Arms, and then Mousejaw. Krang, who looks crazy to me. He's this big purple sort of ogre, or green sort of ogre.
Yeah.
A purple He-Man, which is not quite a faker, but kind of looks like that.
Yeah, it's slimed.
And then we've got Ram Man in the second one, Raphael, the Shredder, Beast Man, Slaker, which is Slash. This is a big figure, guys. Like, he's about the size of Krang, like Krang's android body. So, he's got him right there. Look at that.
That is a brick of plastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That looks badass, though. I'm not even gonna lie.
And I've not seen Moss Man in the stores or anything yet, but Tila, Skeletor, Casey Jones, Mikey, Splinter Skull, I'm guessing like Greyskull, and then Leatherhead, who looks amazing. I haven't even seen him yet. These are really cool designs. Did you guys have any sort of influence on which is kind of what you were talking about? Is this third wave the ones that you've influenced?
No. It'll be something later on. So what contractually, like, I can't give more details than that.
Gotcha.
It's something that just happens later. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, it's exciting stuff. I mean, I remember it seemed like for the longest time, all you could find on the shelf was Mouse Jaw. Like that was it. He was the only one that was there, and then it was like, oh, we got an assortment in, and then it was gone. So they seem to be doing really well.
They are, yeah.
Just a little bit.
I had a question for Tim here. Tim, I at least consider you kind of a big voice in independent comics. What's your history with the TMNT? Because they're the most successful independent comic of all time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and I was the perfect age for when Turtles started coming out. So, what, 82, 83, I was like 5'6". And then I was getting into comics then. I think the original first few issues were like deemed too adult for me to get, I think, by my parents. But you know, I knew who the Turtle stuff was. And then I think by about issue 8 or 9, I started getting it when I was a kid. So, what, 85 or 84, 85? I started getting the black and white one. I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I was drawing Turtles all the time. And then the Archie series came out, and I actually liked that one better, you know, at the time. So don't tell Kevin, but
it's my favorite. So
yeah, when it came out, I was like 10, I think, or 9 or 10 when the Turtles, the Archie one came out. So I followed that book through Mighty Mutanimals and all that sort of stuff. And then I was still getting the black and white stuff. So the Mirage stuff, which is nice because I still have those and they're worth a lot of money. That's great.
woohoo!
But yeah, I was always a huge fan. You know, I think I was 10 when the cartoon came out, 87. Yeah. So, you know, I was huge watcher of the show. We were getting the action figures. I was like 11 or something and kind of feeling like I'm getting too old for action figures, but we were still getting Ninja Turtles for Christmas. So, yeah, they were a huge part of my childhood for sure. It's weird that I've never worked on them before, honestly.
Yeah.
Going back before Nickelodeon bought them, I wrote up a pitch to Mirage, which was this is before IDW, I think even. And I wanted to do a Hack Slash Ninja Turtles crossover.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so I wrote up this stuff and I sent it off, and they're like, I know there's some big business brewings coming, and we won't even have the rights to this soon. So I was like, what? And then Nickelodeon bought them. So
And it never panned out when they were at Image, huh?
and that was before they were at Image before I started Hack Slash, just before. So yeah, I missed my opportunity, but it's crazy. I've never worked on Turtles because I spent half my life with Ninja Turtles. I still have some of my original Ninja Turtles are over on the wall over there. I've got my my Raphael and my Triceraton. So you know, my Playmates ones. Yeah, it was crazy when I started writing. It's like, wait, how have I never written a Ninja Turtle? But I didn't need to do any research. I was just like, I know how this stuff works. I'm good. I had to do a little refresh on because we pulled some stuff from some of the early storylines. So I had to go back and read those, like the Triceratons and such. My punishment was I had to read a huge brick of Ninja fighting Triceratons.
That's terrible. That's a terrible fate.
Stuff.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, and Fugitoid and all that sort of stuff because we use some parts of that kind of story.
So is this going to be canon then in the Mirage verse, or is it canon in the Injustice Masters of the Universe verse? How does it fit into canon?
It is canon Masters of the Universe Classics, which is the same storyline timeline that contains the Thundercats crossover and the Injustice crossover.
Oh, very cool.
It's the same world as that one, same He-Man, same everything, and it is a universe. It's basically for Ninja Turtles. It's just like the universal canon. I don't know. Like there's no. It's not the IDW world because it didn't quite work out because the toys don't, the designs and stuff.
Yeah, they don't match up.
Yeah, so we just kind of. It's just a Turtles story.
It's an unspecified universal type of canon that kind of merges things together.
It's a new universe of Turtles, is what you're kind of saying.
Well,
yes,
there's a character in there. She's able to go between the universes, so she, yeah, right. That's part of that. I don't want to give you too much information. But
does she look like this?
Maybe.
Okay, all right. I won't ask anything further on that. So that's pretty cool.
Is it Marty McFly?
I imagine.
Okay.
Will the Horde be in this at all? Is that something that you can answer?
I wish we could have got the Horde in there. We had so many bad guys. I had to make a call, and so we Although he does show cameo. Yeah, it's mostly the story is kind of firmly rooted with Skeletor and Krang and Shredder as the main antagonist, but we end up going through a lot of other villains. We go, so.
That's well, I like this. I like this. I was gonna say one of my favorite Masters of the Universe characters that's just like so painfully underused is Goatman. Do you have any characters that you like? That
He's actually the main character.
I love this. I love this. He's this big red goat head character with just like kind of like a bondage outfit, and I'm like, he's just so dumb. I just love him.
Well, we put him in Injustice, Masters of the Universe, Freddie.
Yeah, I remember him.
But so Brandman is Goatman in this. He gets mutated with a goat, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That explains why he looks like he does in the action figure, and I believe he's purple with kind of the green veins like the He-Man is.
Yes, he's been mutated with purple mutagen, which is the corrupted slime version of a mutagen with Master Universe. So,
makes sense. Maybe he was touched by the Ramhead staff, but I mean, with Skeletor, that's perfect. So with this, you mentioned Krang and Skeletor as kind of the main villains and all that. I was going to ask, who do you think is more petty and revenge-driven, the Shredder or Skeletor?
I mean, there's like a moment in here. The Shredder is like an important character in here, more so kind of than Skeletor, honestly.
Oh wow!
But for me, like while we were writing this, I was like, but Shredder has like, at least the way I remember him, and it wasn't really in the cartoon, but he has a code, right? He's brutal and he's vicious, but he has a code, and Skeletor does not at all. Like Skeletor is just, I want to win. That's his only thing. But so that was something I was trying to play up a little bit. We get into it a little bit with those guys. But Skeletor is just he's petty, but he only has one thing, and he just wants all the power. And Shredder, he still wants respect and rules and morals. Like sometimes I do a thing when I played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, and my favorite thing in Dungeons and Dragons is the alignment system, which is so one of the things I sometimes do when I can't figure out what a character would do is like, well, what's their alignment from Dungeons and Dragons? And Skeletor is chaotic evil, and Shredder is lawful evil. So there you go.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And then you've got some characters that come across as like true neutral, like maybe like a Zodak or something. You're like, what side are you on?
He just maintains the balance. That's all.
Not to pick on Zodak. There was just a character that I just remember. I'm like, why is his action figure so excessively hairy? It just seems that way,
They had the monkey buck, which was the one they used for Stratos too, and then so that was that Monkey Man buck, and then I got that. We made Zodak an important character in Injustice Masters actually too. He was the one that warned them that Darkseid was coming, and then he got blasted by Darkseid.
Yeah, he didn't last long. Yeah. It was cool too to see like just how that world would react. I was a big fan of that book. I loved it. I loved Injustice in general, but just the idea of what happened there, and also the Thundercats one, those jaw-dropping moments of like when Lion-O stabs He-Man with his sword. Holy crap! You're like, oh my god, what happened to my childhood?
That's our job. We're supposed to
destroy it.
But Skeletor is the clear favorite character from the Injustice crossover. And I mean, I know so many nerd groups and all that. They're like, oh my god, did you see what he did? And it's like, yeah, I can see that. He's just such a nefarious guy.
Yeah, he's a schemer. He's more of a schemer than
Thing
is also a schemer, but he's like an old warlord kind of brain. That's but he's a schemer too. He's kind of similar to. So now I'm just there's all this shit where while I'm writing, I'm like thinking all this stuff. Like these guys they would think this of each other, and like there's a moment in issue 4 where I was like, there's a big battle thing, and Man at Arms and Krang are stuck together. I was like, would they be? And I was like, oh, they're both old soldiers. So then it was like. Just always, that's how my brain is. I was like trying to figure out, like, oh, there you go. So
yeah. I mean, and Krang's good at managing assets, if nothing else, like being the general and stuff. So I could see that working out quite well, And going back to the Archie series, maybe he puts himself on somebody's head or something, I don't know.
That's the climax. I'm surprised you guessed that.
Yep. Yeah, this is great.
We do have at one point, Krang is hanging off Skeletor's shoulders. Like they're on the run, and then it's like Skeletor's got a brain behind him, yelling at him to do stuff. Yeah.
Oh man, that's so awesome. And he's just like Skeletor's just conditioned to taking this verbal abuse from Hordak anyway. So
Yeah.
it's
Till we meet again.
I got another one for Tim here. There's an early comic story within the TMNT universe with Mundine's Bar. It's an intergalactic watering hole. The Turtles have been in space for a little bit. They stopped to recharge, and I think this was in like Grimjack issue 26. Do you think that the team from Money Shot would end up in Mundine's Bar? And if so, would they pick up on maybe a Triceraton or something? And just for the record, I'm not suggesting anything with the Ninja Turtles for the book Money Shot. They are teenagers, so I just mean in this world. Yeah.
So that's interesting because so Mundine's Bar was made up by John Ostrander. John Ostrander, because he was running Grimjack, he's from here in Chicago, and Mundine's Bar was a real place. It was a real bar that all those guys used to hang out at, and I've heard amazing stories from that crew, like Hilary Barta and all those that generation of Chicago comic creators. So I always wanted to use it, but we because it's kind of like an open license thing, sort of, right? It's like out in the world, there's this bar.
It's a landmark,
right? And like anybody can meet there. That's kind of the trope for it. I could totally use Money Shot. We did. There was one thing that we wanted to do in Turtles He-Man, where we were trying to think of a location that people could all meet up, and I totally thought about using Mundine's Bar, but we used something that existed in the Ninja Turtles world, which was the Pleasure Dome Blastorama.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So we did use something like that in this, and it's an important plot point, actually.
Jeez. Can we confirm if Cuddly the Cowlick will be in this?
Oh, yeah. Wait, that's
So-
a Tick character, right? Oh no, that's a Turtles character. Yeah.
I just like last year found out about him. I had like that huge. Are we talking about the disembodied cowhead?
We are,
that can travel through
Right.
dimensions. Yeah.
That's right.
I was shocked that character existed. I was at the what show was that? Cherry City Capital Con, and I hang out with a couple like Rob Humphreys and Jason Plowman and a few other people, and we were doing this a drink and draw. But for me, it was just drawing because I don't drink. But they brought up that character. They mentioned him, and to me, it just sounded like a joke that they had made up. And they were like, no, check this out. And they showed me this disembodied interdimensional cowhead that would use its tongue to scoop up the characters and put it in its mouth and then teleport away. And I was like, oh my God. So, I completely
forgot about that character. And if we had thought of it, that would have been a perfect way to get the characters together.
It's a Steve Levine character, right?
It's not too late. We can patch the artwork that I've already drawn.
This makes so much sense. This is like Marvel versus DC right now. Yeah.
Good Lord.
We did, like, I read James and Freddie did the Ninja Turtles Batman stuff, which I love, but it bugged me. And I told James this. It bugged me that the Turtles had to go to a different world to like meet Batman. You know, like they had to go to the DC universe, whatever. Like I hate in crossovers where someone has to be like, I'm in a different place. Like just stick them together. Who cares? Like I don't like the whole thing. We have to explain why they've never met before or how their worlds are different. It's like I don't know. There's plenty of people I don't meet. It's not that they don't. We're in the same world. I just don't meet them. You know, like so that's one thing with this. I didn't want to have them have to go to a different universe. Like I just like there's a reason why and sort of like how they end up together and how it screws everything up. But I didn't want it to be a different universe. I was like, that feels like you have to take all this effort and be like, I got to go to another dimension. But I guess if we had that cowhead, you just you got licked and you went over somewhere, and it was
that's a thing. I mean, and that's like one of the biggest things that just came out of Armageddon game was they introduced Cuddly the Cowlick and Cherube and like all of that sort of stuff into like the grand space the Nova Posse into the grand space theater of the Ninja Turtles IDW series. So you know, it's kind of fun.
Like Cuddly was in like other cartoons, right? He was in like other animated. He was in the Cowboys and Moo Mesa and stuff, right?
I don't know that. Maybe.
And I don't know that either.
Yeah, that's a Dan
I'm a
Ricker
novice
question,
with
I
this.
think. Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't know, but I'm going to look this up.
Character to remind me, and then I had a flood of flashbacks of like, holy shit, how did we forget about that character? Because that would have, it could have worked in this story, but we didn't need to go to different dimensions. So
Right.
next time for the sequel, where they go to an evil Turtles Master Universe mirror universe, then we'll use Cuddly the Cowlick.
Oh, that
Dude,
sounds good.
I've said this before, in terms of this. If I ever get a genie and I get 3 wishes, my first wish is that they bring the Mighty Mutanimals back from hell, in the Archie series. So, it's like I could not be more invested in these characters. So, I'll excuse you for not remembering it because I literally am steeped in it. So,
I read that book as a kid. I definitely read Mighty Mutanimals. that was like that era of the Archie. That was my Turtles, basically. I mean, I came back later and reread the stuff that scared the shit out of me when I was 10, the black and white stuff, which was like
Souls Winter. Yes.
like I love the Mirage book because when you're like 9, 10 years old reading that, sometimes it would scare the living shit out of you. It would just have these creepy. The art was sometimes ready to have ads for like terrifying Simon Bisley melting pot, all that sort of stuff. You just go,
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you're like, what's this heavy metal? Maybe I should check this out.
Yeah.
Dad, can we get this? No, we can't, son. Don't ever ask again.
I actually have a story about that too, because I had the same thing. I saw a Bisley cover on heavy metal once at the grocery store. And I sat down to pick it open. And I opened it. And it was Druna by Serpieri. I don't know if you've ever seen that book. It's just the most rendered asses you've ever seen in your life. I had like a profound it's etched in my memory, sitting on the ground at the grocery store, being like, "Holy shit!"
They had heavy metal at the grocery store. Wow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was like sitting right next to the Hot Rod magazines on the bottom shelf. And it was at 29 Super in Schofield, Wisconsin, and I saw a Serpieri rendered butthole when I was like.
And that's why we have the book Money Shot today,
I'm
folks.
sure that is not completely unrelated.
Oh my God, that's cool. I love that book, by the way. And it's not for kids, but I think it's full of great adult humor in terms of just like what it means to like meet other aliens and have sex with them. It's just it's like no one's done that before.
Star Trek.
I meant in comic form, but yeah, I guess you're right.
Star Trek is just about Kirk slinging dick across the universe. That's what it's about.
So then that's the question. Would you be the go-to person if you and Freddie go on to another crossover for Star Trek? Would that be you then writing that one?
Kirk be like this.
I could absolutely do the original series.
Yeah, I think that would be the place to start.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really watch Next Generation or anything after that, but the original one, I know that one real well. That's a personal favorite.
I think that would be great. I was just talking to someone about what was it, the Terror Down Below or something, the Romulan episode or something, and how if I had never seen any episode other than that one, I still would have thought this was an amazing series. So, but there's a lot of really perennial things that you can do, and I think that the Turtles in Space is some of the best stuff, because how often can you just have the Turtles versus Shredder and it's the same thing over and over again?
Well, there was a Turtles Star Trek mashup Playmates line, remember?
There was, yeah. But they never did any sort of stories with it.
I'm surprised.
We got the X-Men crossover. We got a Green Lantern crossover with the original series and all that. I think Ron Mars wrote that one, but we never got a Turtles crossover.
I feel like that's where Roddenberry's company would be like, no, we do the toys, but we're not doing a crossover with. I would love to see it, but
it's Paramount, so it's there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing with doing the Turtles Master Universe stuff is like while we were working on this, Freddie and I had all kinds of thoughts. We're like, actually, this ties in everything. Like this could bring in, if we wanted to, like this could bring in Thundercats, and it's like there's a little mechanism in there too that we're like, oh shit, this has so much possibility for smashing all the toys together, basically.
Yeah, that would be so cool. I would love it if
you drew it too, but I was like, oh, naughty that you.
Yeah, I'm trying to lay some seeds. Maybe they'll grow into something. It would be phenomenal if sometime in a coming year that we were given like a mega crossover that had, you know, the Thundercats in there and Silverhawks and Thundar the Barbarian and you know what I'm saying? Just like all of this, I don't know. It would be amazing.
Grognard, right, from the 2012. Thundar was such a good show, so underrated. You know, in Filmation originally had Black Star, who had started out before the Masters of the Universe and all that. I think they actually reused a lot of character designs for that too. So, any thoughts on incorporating Black Star in that? Maybe Brave Star too, with his horse with a shotgun.
But I actually looked into the rights for Black Star because I really want to do something with it. But I cannot figure out who owns it, or I mean, I know it's Filmation, but I can't figure out how to talk to anybody, or I have no idea. So
I think
listening,
bring back Bucky O'Hare, if you ask me. So, and I know, you know, Michael Golden, Larry Hama own that, and I think Neil Adams' estate has the rights. So, good luck.
Yeah. Well, some of those things that they're, I would love to do something with it, and how much effort do I want to put into like doing paperwork and calling people and throwing licenses in there? Black Star would be worth it. I love that design and stuff. It's great stuff.
I think it's interesting too because it's a diverse character that people don't realize, and you're like, oh no, this is not just like another like character like He-Man. This could be something else, and you can give it a different heritage and all that, and kind of take it through that way. And then there's a whole different level that you can reach people on that is not really there with it's just He-Man. It's like he's an alien from Eternia, and his mom's an astronaut, and he's half Earthling. Oh, okay. You know, it's just different because now it's like, what's Black Star's story? You know.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was basically John Carter
on Mars. Yeah.
John Carter. John Carter is what I meant. Yes.
With his own Tars Tarkus and Deja Thoris. Yep. Yeah. No, I like that. What's next for you guys in terms of this? Like, obviously this has not come out yet and all that. I mean, do we have any plans for you guys collaborating on maybe like a Black, White, and Green, the anthology book for one of your stories?
Freddie is so busy that he's got a lined up job after this
one. Yeah, we'll be working on something after this together. Like it might even overlap a little bit with the crossover and stuff. But you know, obviously there'll be several stages before it's announced and stuff like that. But
cool.
Is it another crossover?
Well, you said it connects to this, so
it connects to this?
No. Overlaps.
No, overlaps. Okay.
Schedule-wise, it overlaps with it. So
gotcha.
Okay.
So yeah, that's. I mean, it's like 10 bridges to cross before we can talk about all that. So.
Gotcha. So something that you two are cooking up in the works. That's all we need to know. That's totally fine.
We're always cooking.
Always cooking. That sounds good.
Oh, another slice of pizza.
Our beards are growing gray together, Freddie.
Oh, together.
They're growing gray at the same time, and eventually they'll grow together in this way. They'll just like connect like a root system.
Like always talking about shit, our hair will come through.
Tim's just getting more and more like Alan Moore by the hour. So
body horror shit. You know, we're just talking about man all the time. Our faces fuse. Yeah, it's
a real color out of space moment here. We didn't get a chance to ask you this, Tim, but last time Freddie was here, we did ask him about his favorite Ninja Turtle and all that. Who's your favorite of the brothers?
When I was a kid, it was Raphael because I was a kid, and now that I'm older, it's Donnie. I think when I was writing them, I was like, oh no, I'm sort of gravitating towards the like smart nerdy guy now that I'm an old smart nerdy guy. But I was an angry teenager. Raphael worked really well. But
who's the hardest to write dialogue for? Because I'd imagine it's Michelangelo.
Oh no, Michelangelo's so easy.
He's easy. Okay.
And I can. Well, my natural thing is to write people quippy, being funny, and I overdo it. But Mikey, you can just do it. It's totally acceptable, you know. The hardest one is Leo. That's the hardest one. Because he's great, but he's also like got to be the more serious one. Like he can have, you know, he can have moments of being lighthearted and stuff, but his job is to like keep the other ones in line and feel guilty about it if they get hurt, and you know, like so he's tougher to write in general.
I live for those moments with Leo because I'm a Leo guy, like Freddie. I live for those moments when he's not just like trying to push people around and stuff, and when he actually says something that's like either like heartfelt, to console somebody, or just like he says something that's like really thought provoking, and I absolutely love those moments. But yeah, I could see him being difficult because otherwise he comes across like Cyclops from the X-Men cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, these are they're characters for kids, and then you always pick the one who's like the bad boy, like it's wish fulfillment. Like you want to be the Wolverine, you want to be you wish you could, but you can't like go berserk and cut a bunch of people or whatever. So like live through those characters, But
Yeah,
they're
that's really frowned upon. So
it's a little bit fun. But then as you get older, you start to sort of like the other ones when you kind of understand. Oh, there was a lot of interest here with these characters, but I was too young to appreciate it.
yeah, I get it. Is there pizza on Eternia?
No,
No. Okay.
there was not pizza on it.
So there's no like sort of like outlandish pizza toppings and all that show up.
No, so because that was one of I actually had to answer this for myself because the boys when they're on Eternia they have to miss something, and it was like, oh, it's pizza.
That's a good answer.
It
Yeah.
can't be perfect. It has to have problems, and obviously Splinter, they miss Splinter and they miss April and maybe Casey a little bit or whatever, but mostly it's pizza. So they had to have something that they're like, oh, this kind of stuff.
Yeah, are they vegetarian mostly on Eternia? And I know that's a really weird in the weeds questions, but the movie always kind of surprised me because the ribs, it's made of meat. They eat meat, like between Tila and Man at Arms.
I keep that canon in my head that
Okay.
they went through a terrible war. That's the whole Eternia story, right? They saw some terrible shit, and now everybody's like, yeah, let's not kill stuff for food. There's probably like rural areas, like barbarians out on the rural parts, like killing stuff. But in sophisticated Eternos, they eat all vegetables all the time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I don't know how He-Man's getting that physique besides magic, but that's fine.
They have very protein-laden beans in Eternia. That's
okay.
He doesn't even have to work out. I mean, he's just like that.
Good. Yeah, and Adam is all beef too. He doesn't. We've got the beefy Adam in ours. We have the Filmation version. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and he's got that
beefy.
iconic haircut.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We call
I
that
can't
the Prince
imagine
Valiant.
I love it. I love that haircut. It's so indicative. In my brain, it's so perfect for him because so few other people have it unless you go way back, like Prince Valiant or whatever. Yeah. But I grew up with that's what He-Man looks like. It works for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's about all the time that I had. All the questions. Eric, did you have any questions for these gentlemen?
Yes, pineapple on pizza.
Oh, okay.
The infamous question: pineapple on pizza. Do you or do you not like it?
I do.
It's a life or death one. Okay, just putting this out.
I'll put pineapple on pizza. I think it tastes great. I got no problem with that at all.
I think it works as long as I have something spicy to counterbalance it. So I'll put jalapenos and use spicy sausage or something.
Outnumbered.
You're outnumbered today, man. Yeah.
2-1.
That's great. So with that, we'll put a nice pizza recipe in this one. Last time Freddie was on, we actually had corned beef and cabbage pizza. So that was the recipe for that particular episode. So we'll have to find something sweet and spicy for this one to put up there.
I was right to just also, if you're gonna try something, try peanut butter on a burger.
I know, yeah.
I've been wanting to try that.
Like the Lucky Monk out here, they have that. So
really good. Really adds something. I don't know. It's yeah.
Did you have bacon? Did you have bacon?
You have to, yeah.
Bacon on there, yeah.
Okay. Did you do jelly?
I didn't do jelly.
I've done banana, but not jelly. I've done banana on it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Elvis Presley.
Banana and so it'd be peanut butter, banana, and then burger with bacon on it. It's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, don't eat it very often, but yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah, no, that's how you mutate into human Krang there by doing that. So. Well, that's great. Well, we'll be right back with for all the listeners. We'll be right back with our pizza recipe. I want to thank our guests, Tim Seeley and Freddie Williams. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's pizza time.
And now, in a segment that we call Pizza Time, where we discuss any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or pizza-related food, I give you Pizza Time. Now for our pizza recipe of the day. Why not something that's a little sweet and savory? Grilled pizza with pork and pineapple. Ingredients: extra virgin olive oil for brushing, 1 pound pizza dough, store-bought or homemade, 1 pork tenderloin, about 1 1/4 pounds, trimmed, kosher salt, and freshly ground pepper, 1/3 cup teriyaki glaze, 1/2 pineapple peeled, cored, and thinly sliced, 1 red onion sliced into thick rings, 1 1/2 cups shredded whole milk mozzarella cheese, and 1/2 cup fresh cilantro. Step 1. Preheat the grill to medium-high heat. Brush the baking sheet with olive oil. Place the pizza dough on the pan and turn to coat with the oil. Set aside and bring to room temperature. Step 2. Slice the pork lengthwise down the center almost all the way through. Then, open like a book and flatten with your hands. Season the pork with salt and pepper and brush over with 2 tablespoons of teriyaki glaze. Brush the pineapple and onion slices with olive oil and season lightly with salt and pepper. Step 3. Brush the grill grates with olive oil. Arrange the pineapple and onion on one side of the grill and the pork on the other side. Grill the pineapple and the onion until tender or lightly charred, 2 to 3 minutes per side. Transfer to a plate. Grill the pork until cooked through, about 6 minutes per side. Transfer to a cutting board. Step 4. Stretch the pizza dough into a 9 by 12 inch rectangle onto a baking sheet. Reduce the grill to low heat. Place the dough on the grill and cook until puffed on top and charred on the bottom, about 1 to 2 minutes. Flip and top with mozzarella. Cover and cook until the crust is cooked through and the cheese is melted, 2 to 3 minutes about. Transfer to a cutting board. Cut the pineapple pork into bite-sized pieces, scatter over the crust with the onion, and drizzle with the remaining teriyaki glaze, and then sprinkle with cilantro. Pro tips: don't use cooking spray on a lit grill, it'll flare up. Instead, hold an oiled paper towel with tongs and rub the grates. Pizza crust cooks quickly on the grill. Keep an eye on it. Flip the crust as soon as it's puffed and charred. And that's your pizza recipe for today that Eric will hate: grilled pizza with pork and pineapple. Cowabunga, dudes! Thank you for listening to the Epic Tales from the Sewers podcast. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. This podcast has no affiliation with Eastman, Laird, Mirage Studios, IDW Studios, Archie Comics, or Nickelodeon Studios. This podcast is a member of the Dorkening Podcast Network. Check out thedorkening.com for other podcasts. Epic Tales from the Sewers is recorded by Justin Cooper and Eric Will.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite seems trying to say is that on Retro Reductibus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Reductibus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
It took me 10 years to make the perfect man cave.
And then we took it over. And we made it into the multiversal chamber.
Then I started my own podcast.
And we took that over too. And we're the co-hosts, the Multiverse Kids.
Yeah, and I'm the dad, the geeky dad. And every week, we what?
We review the movies, shows, and books, games, and toys.
Yeah, and sometimes we even have a special guest. So, join us every week on the Geeky Dad Podcast.
Hello, intrepid listeners. This is the Generation Playlist Podcast, a podcast about music where we are your guides through a particular group or artist.
We talk about the music, and then we make a customized playlist to share with you, our listeners. And you can check us out wherever you listen to podcasts and find our playlists on Spotify.